Okay, Joe, what about now? Did I get it fixed? Okay, so this is Angela Hooper-Menifield with Menifield and Associates, and we are here today with our HR moment. I am checking now to make sure that my audio, yes, is working. Great. Thank you so much. All right. So, HR moments here at Minifield and Associates. One of the things that we really work hard to do, in addition to training and equipping new supervisors, is to supply. Joe, you know what? I figured out what it was. So I just added the new piece to my headset I have been using. I have been plugging it directly into my computer, and I forgot to take it off mute. So, technology. Thank you so much, Sharon. So, what we do at Minifield and Associates is we really understand that oftentimes people are are promoted to a higher level when they're not really equipped for the position. And so, what do we mean by that? Well, oftentimes the person who is the best at the task gets the honor and the privilege of being promoted, right? So we look to equip and build supervisors to a point where they can adequately and sufficiently perform their duties. Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate you. So, one of the things that I would like to talk about today is how to give our employees more autonomy in their positions. I literally just got off a world summit with IBGR Radio. And one of the things that we were talking about was how sometimes even business owners with their businesses, we see our area of expertise, maybe our division, our branch, our business, we see it as our babies, right? As such, we as supervisors, managers, and leaders, we have convinced ourselves that nobody can take care of the baby like we can, right? As a result of that, sometimes we micromanage and we're not allowing our employees the degree of autonomy that they really need in order to be proficient. Now, I feel compelled to say that I think that there are two sides to this coin, and you may have heard me say this before, because oftentimes employees are afraid to operate with more autonomy. Because guess what? They don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be the responsible person. But to me, this speaks to what is the culture and what is the environment that we're working in. Because unless we are doing our part to help people feel safe to make mistakes, to not always get it right, then potentially they don't desire to have more autonomy. I mean, let's just think about it. I know I've heard it for years, and I have said it when being a team member. I would say things like, they micromanage us or they never let us do anything. But then I would also sit in a room, be it a conference room and a team meeting, and a supervisor or manager would ask somebody to do something. And everybody just look around like crickets. It'd be like, cricket, cricket, right? Nobody said anything. And so this is a two-way street. But what are some things that we can do? Because again, our HR moments are for everybody, but we really want to hone in on those supervisors. Like, how can we equip and help you guys give the employees more autonomy? And so, one of the things that I think we can do is be clear on what are the levels or degrees, right? Like, how can we decide this is level one, which is basic understanding, perhaps level two, which is a more advanced level of understanding or awareness, which with minimal input. And then level three with basically, I let them do what they need to do. They come back to me with updates, right? So that everybody doesn't get that. But when we talk about autonomy, there's some things that I really want you to think about as a supervisor or manager. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt stifled? Maybe, not freeness of speech, nor the ability to ask questions or do what you wanted to do because you felt like you always had to run it up the line, so to speak, right? Like there's a project I'm working on right now. And to some degree, I feel like that, right? Somebody just asked me a question and I was like, well, let me verify that. because I have made decisions and then had them undone or overturned, right? Now, I don't lose a lot of sleep over it at this stage of my career because I'm a consultant. Different people have different ways how they run their projects, and it's a one-off relationship. So, in the event that it does not improve, I always have a right to say yay or nay to return. But for people who work jobs every day and are with the same entity, the same company, the same team, I gotta imagine that's pretty frustrating, like never feeling as if they have the autonomy to answer a question. Here's another thing that we're doing to our team, whether we realize it or not. When we put them in the position that they always have to come to us to get approval, we are actually taking away from their credibility with their peers, their clients, their direct reports, and or the people who they work with regularly. Because at a certain point in time, those people are going to say, why should I keep asking you? If every time I ask you a question, your response is, well, let me go check with Angela, guess what? I'm just going to start skipping you and I'm going to go to Angela. Now, many of us don't want to say that part of the reason this happens, we play a role in. So, as a manager, sometimes I've heard managers say, or supervisors, the leaders, that they get frustrated because their team brings them everything, right? Like all the problems, all the issues, all the minutia. Well, bigger question I have for you, Mr. Supervisor, Mr. Business Owner, Mr. Leader, wherever you fall on that spectrum, what's your role in that? Because it's been my experience that when someone brought me a question that I felt should have been answered at another level, if I said something like, well, what did Mary say? Right? Something as simple as, or we have Joe on here today, right? Like, what did Joe say? That immediately is an indicator like, what Joe says matters to them. So maybe the next time before I come and ask a question, I should find out what Joe said. And even if they did ask Joe, because we know employees sometimes play, both sides, right? I would still say, well, what did Joe say? They would tell me what Joe said. And then my follow up would be, okay, so what questions about what Joe said, do you have? Now, I will do this even if I don't agree with Joe's answer. Why do you think I do that? Because I'm trying to create a culture that they know that Joe is the place that they can go for this. If Joe gave a bad answer, I can coach the answer up. That's not a problem. But I have to, as the supervisor or manager, create an atmosphere of expectation, right? I expect you to go here with these types of questions. Otherwise, I'm just scratching my head, frustrated, tired, feeling like I'm involved in everything, every issue, yet never really having a protocol in place to fix that, right? So think about it. How many managers, how many people have you heard whine and complain about that? So as an employee, I don't like going to my supervisor too often because I don't want to appear incompetent or need handholding. Well, that's a great point. So Renee, what I would say to that is you can go to them, but maybe you go to them with a resolution. So when you go to them, you say, hey, Angela, just FYI, Mike came, this was the issue, this is how I handled it, just wanted to keep you in the know, right? So for me, especially as I'm growing in that space of autonomy, right? Because the more you work with people, the more you begin to know how they would handle things and how they would want you to handle things. And so one of the things, my boss's name was Daryl Ernest in the government. Like Daryl and I are still cool. We chat, we talk. But after working with Daryl for so long, I knew Daryl's temperament. Or think about it as a kid, like kids would tell the siblings, when mama find out about this, right? Mama hadn't even heard what that was going to be. And I'm not equating supervisors with mama. But the point I'm making is these are the people whose opinion or who we're trying to please. We knew what they were going to say. So over time, the more you work with them, the more you know, the more comfortable you get. But as you're building up to that, what you can do is keep them in the know. Because on the flip side, as one of my mentees, one of my millennials, I love to coach the millennials, told me their supervisor told them, don't let the news beat you home, right? Like, don't let me hear you made a decision, you took action, maybe you stepped into the autonomy that you thought you had, and I hear about it in the streets, right? And so and I think that was really sage advice. Don't let the news beat you home. So yeah, you don't want to go to your supervisor too often, as in hand holding or needing the guidance and support, but you do want to go and ask, or no, I'm sorry, and provide information, right? So this is what I've done. Here's an update on you know, and more times than not, even if they wouldn't have done it that way, they'll say things like, okay, thanks, right? Like, they're noticing that, Renee takes initiative, Renee is stepping up. Renee is not afraid to make a decision. So they're paying attention. If they're a good supervisor, they're paying attention, right? But what they also are doing is letting you grow. And again, when we hear that you've made a decision that we're not in alignment with, we'll coach you up. So we'll say, hey, no problem. So next time, just, for future reference, when XYZ happens, the preferred way to handle it would be, or a better way, or the way that I like to see it handled is, right? So now they're coaching you or telling you, or they may ask you a open-ended question like, okay, Renee, that was interesting. What are some other ways you could have addressed that? Right? So now they're coaching you and they're getting you to begin to think into, was there another solution? Was this the best way? So a good supervisor has to understand how to coach, how to mentor, and also how to manage. And if we're always telling people what to do, we've limited their growth and we've also limited their comfort level in being autonomous. And then we go back to that grind, which I kind of talked about, which is we start to feel as if we got to do everything. And I know for a fact, I have felt like that. I know tons of supervisors who have felt like that. So again, we want to allow for the level of autonomy that either the position provides for. So if a person has for instance, the authority to approve requests for leave, you can't go behind them and undo them. You just can't. What you can do is, if they're not being done right, again, coach them up. But if we undermine that, if we stifle people's ability, then what we're going to do is create a work environment where people are afraid to fail or afraid to speak up. And then they just say, well, what's the point? Because every time I do something, you undo it anyway, right? And we don't want that either. Because again, that gets us the team of people that we're whining about because we're like, they never do anything. Again, I must ask you, what is your role in that? And that could be any relationship. We could talk about marriages, right? Like, I remember being a new mom and my daughter's father, I didn't like the way he put up the bottles and cleaned them and did all that. And so I would go in there and redo it. Now, my intent wasn't to undermine his doing. Again, was young. I didn't know no better back then either. But it wasn't the way I wanted it done. And so we undo it. And then over time, guess what happened? He quit doing stuff. Then I was mad. And then I was talking about him. And so I digress. It's our baby. That's how we see it, right? That's how we see it. And so we want the work environment to be a place where people can grow. What's that, Joe? With our team. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you. We have to. And again, we have to be forward thinking. And so I'll leave you with this as I get ready to bring this to a close. At some point in time, we're going to want to promote people. We're going to want to advance them. We're going to be looking into our succession plan, looking around, or maybe because our business is growing or our company is growing, we need different layers, different departments. We're going to be looking for the type of people that are, we use terms like go-getter and blue chipper and, natural born leader. We use all those little phrases, right? But here's the thing, somebody has those skills that they're sitting on because we haven't allowed them autonomy in the work that they already have. So, how would we ever know what else they're capable of doing? And we're sleeping on some people. We believe that we don't have the right people yet to move forward, and we need to go out into the market and get more people. Perhaps. I don't know the answer to that question, but I still come back to my question to you. What is your role in that? Right? Like, what role do you play as the supervisor, manager, business owner, leader of the organization that it has inhibited your team from operating at a degree of autonomy and proficiency beyond what you tell them what to do? So that's food for thought for you. Okay. So thank you for watching. Again, we try to show up every Monday, Wednesday, Friday with our HR moments. Share a video, tell a friend. The other thing I want to announce is our journal is coming out. I'd say next week, our new supervisors 30-day journal. I think this would be a great place for us as supervisors to really start to think into, how do we manage and lead our team? How do we create an energy of, I value you? So often, again, we're promoted, and I've been guilty of doing it, promoting people because of technical expertise, and then they're not happy in their jobs. I had to own that. And so now, because I was part of the problem, I want to be a part of the solution. And I think this journal is a great place to start. So, again, feel free to stay tuned for links and updates on how you can get your own. We'll have some autographed copies as well. And remember, the Pulse of HR podcast is now available on iTunes, Spotify, The Pulse of HR, thepulseofhr.com. You can subscribe as well there and get the link to the actual podcast. But your support is greatly appreciated. And again, for those of you who don't know, podcast results are based on downloads and subscribes, not just listens. So please, it would be I would be grateful if you would do the both. So thank you very much. Thank you again, Joe, for hanging in there with me this video. I greatly appreciate you. I hope I've added some value, and I will talk to you guys on Wednesday. Have a good one. Thanks, Renee. Bye.